Okay, guys, so not so long ago, I did an interview podcast with Bill Yeager's Transformations, and it was a great conversation. A lot of the conversation was around how I kind of deal with health issues and how mindset is so important to being healthy and establishing healthy habits. And I didn't dive in too much to what my health issues are, but I did talk about how regardless, if you develop a toolbox for yourself, for your lifestyle, for whatever health issues you may have or injuries you may have or just preferences you may have, that is setting yourself up for success. So, with that being said, here is a day in the life or in the mind of me when it comes to managing my own health issues. So over the past 10 years, I started experiencing pain in my spine. And a little bit more about this story is on that podcast, which I will also link. But I have been seeking answers for a very long time, almost 10 years now. So I've gone through a lot of different diagnoses, and as of the past 2 weeks, I have, or a couple months, but 2 weeks I have a new diagnosis, and a couple months I have a second new one. So it started off like there's connective tissue disorders, and this one's called Hypermobility spectrum disorder. So there is another form of that. It's called EDS, which is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And these are connective tissue, basically the integrity of the connective tissue and of joints can be loose, they can shift out of place, they can cause pain throughout the body, through muscles, through fascia, through the joint, all over fatigue. All right, so I've had to really keep pushing. I had to ask my general doctor for a referral to genetics. And then even in the genetics, I had to ask, well, I've never seen a neurologist. Do you think it would be beneficial? And he said, sure. So the neurologist has kind of come onto this possible new diagnosis called POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. So what does that mean? That means that when I change positions, like from laying to sitting to standing, my heart rate elevates and it doesn't really come back down. So I just started tracking my heart rate. And that's why sometimes even when I talk, I get really breathless. When I wear a mask, I get really breathless. I could get breathless very easily now. And I had made excuses for every single way that I feel. I just thought I was deconditioned after having kids, never got back to the fitness level that I once was at. I've labeled things anxiety and depression that are also just symptoms of this condition, which is racing heart, kind of brain fog, just like the desire to want to lay down all the time, and fatigue, which I was like kind of wondering, is that depression, like the fatigue part of it? And it gets really tricky because a lot of things have similar symptoms. But now that I'm understanding and monitoring my heart rate, I am putting the pieces together that if my heart rate all day long doesn't really come down past 98 unless I'm sitting or laying, and can go as high as like 130, 158, and I'm not working out, that means my body is in a state basically like I'm working out, but I'm not, for hours out of the day. So of course I'm going to be fatigued. And that with the hypermobility spectrum, where your body's working extra hard to stabilize your joints, can lead to a lot of fatigue. And it's just wild to have come to certain points where you thought one thing about your body and then it could actually be a totally different thing. So it changes my perspective a lot, It also allows me to settle into some of these things as being reality, because now I could see that my heart rate is actually elevated very high, or that like I'll get a palpitation out of nowhere and I thought I just had like anxiety, but it's really my body's inability to stabilize its autonomic processes, autonomic nervous system, which can be breathing, heart rate. So this is the new, my arm's getting tired. This is the new storyline. So how do I approach this? I'm kind of riding out the medical wave and seeing where that brings me and getting a bunch of tests done. I've started a supplement, a natural supplement. I am going to try a medication, because to me, I just like really weigh the risk and reward. And if my daily life can be improved while I kind of figure out a more natural approach to this condition, then that's the route I'm going to take. So after getting all the medical perspective, I will take the data to a naturopath and see what they have to say. And then I will kind of like figure out and try different things to see where I feel best and what feels best for my body overall, because my end goal is always healing, but I'm not like dismissive of the fact that I also have to maybe take a medication that makes my daily life a little more manageable, because I have a lot of responsibilities. I have 2 children I need to take care of. I have work and clients, and are a blessing to me and help me get outside myself and my head and my body, and love working with them. And it also, all this helps me work with them better, because I have clients that have similar issues like this. So that's like the medical perspective, or the physical perspective. I also have a workout protocol. So I could have taken that protocol and been like, I know, because this is what I do for a living, but I am looking at it and understanding it and internalizing it, because it's more of a progression, not for what your mind thinks you can handle, but for how to train your heart to be able to handle loads and exercise. The other aspect is spiritual, right? So I got to stay spiritually grounded and have faith that there are answers, and that I do believe in full healing. So I believe in full healing, and it's just about me finding the tools and implementing them properly to be able to get that full healing. But what we think is what we become. So if I let certain things kind of just take over my mind in the negative, it's definitely not going to help my body. And then so there's the emotional component, which therapy and having an outlet is really important to manage all the emotions that come with things like this, because there's a lot of grieving that goes on when you can't do the things that you used to do or that you want to do. Like sometimes I'll still agree to do certain things, whether it's within my job or socially, or push myself in a workout because it's what I want to do. And then I kind of have to realize that I still have to pace myself. I have to pace my life really every day. So these are the approaches that when you're dealing with some diagnosis or some health issues that you have to take. The tricky thing about this is the more deconditioned you get, the worse it becomes. So again, I thought I was just so deconditioned after having kids, even though I was still like working out, not what I used to do, but I was still working out, but I was never getting to the point, I haven't gotten to the point where like my cardio feels good. And when I play with the kids, I get very out of breath and I get dizzy. And it was really, really bad last year where I couldn't even really like get down and get up without feeling really dizzy. And increasing the electrolytes and salt intake has helped that a little bit. But I just blamed it. I'm deconditioned. I just need to do more cardio and I'll be fine. And the cardio will help that. Exercising will help that. But it's still like a whole thing I have to learn and pay attention to and kind of take this new approach to my body. It makes a lot of things make sense. and it kind of actually brings some compassion to myself and allows me to really settle into where I'm at. So in a way of like being like, oh my God, do I really have these 2 new diagnoses? They do make sense, and they do line up with what I've dealt with for a lot of years. So now it's just like, how can I learn as much about them medically, naturally, and take the best approach for myself? I think Facebook support groups are really important. They kind of help you troubleshoot and learn what other people are going through or have gone through. So you could expedite your process a little bit when you have the insight of many who have walked the path before you. So again, if you're facing a certain condition and you might be younger or not know anybody who has it, that's one approach you can take. But yeah, so you're not alone. Whatever you're dealing with, whatever you're going through, you are not alone. And don't forget, you got to approach it mentally, physically, emotionally, and find out the steps you need to take for you that are going to help you along the way. And don't forget, everything you learn helps somebody else. You are not the only one to go through this. You will not be the last one. And when you learn the proper tools and how to manage in all those aspects with what you deal with, you'll be surprised when you accept it and kind of settle in and are open and step into your truth, how many other people deal with the same things. So that's like my intention with sharing all this, because I mean, it's been 10 years and a lot of people don't even know what I do experience every day and what I have to manage every day. And it always pops up in my face, and I would just kind of deal with it and try to meet the expectations of others and of, say, like a school system or of a work environment. And that only stressed me out further. So even though it's hard sometimes to be like, listen, I'm late because, like, if I drop my kid off late, I'm late because, like, it's hard. Mornings are hard. I have chronic illness. I have 2 kids. It's just me. Like, I try not to over-explain myself, but then at the same time, I've also stopped beating myself up about being able to meet their expectations. And if I need to, of course, I will explain myself once. And then after that, it's really not my issue. So yeah, that's my 2 cents for today. And I'm sharing this again because a lot of people don't know what POTS is and what chronic illnesses are. And there's a lot of people that walk around looking perfectly okay and deal with these issues every day. And they might not even know what it is. They might not know how to verbalize the challenge. But we just really have to give people grace and let people have their boundaries and respect other people's health, which is hard to do when a lot of us don't respect our own health. But I just hope that gives somebody perspective. If you deal with a chronic illness, please comment below like what it is you go through. If you could relate to anything that I've said today, we're all in this together. Have a great day. You're a warrior.